So imagine you are standing in this massive, totally chaotic room, and you are handed a little handheld label maker,
Okay, I'm picturing it.
right? And your entire job is to just walk around and stick a label on absolutely everything you see. You label the chairs, you label the people in the room, you even label the interactions between those people.
That sounds incredibly
Oh, it
tedious.
gets worse.
Yeah.
You're also labeling your own internal feelings, right? Like good, bad, important, trivial, success, failure. You are just constantly working to categorize everything in the room.
Just sticking labels on every single thing.
Exactly. But here is the problem. The room never actually stops changing. Like the furniture gets rearranged, the people leave, your own feelings shift,
Yeah.
and yet you are frantically running around printing more and more labels, just trying to lock everything down into a neat, understandable little category.
Which is impossible, obviously.
Right. Sound exhausting? Because it is. And today we are exploring a really radical alternative to that specific exhaustion.
Yeah, we have some fascinating source material for this deep dive.
We really do. We are looking at an essay by the author Su Feng. It's titled All Saints and Sages Differ Only in Their Mastery of the Way of Non-Action.
A long title, but a really profound concept.
Truly. So the mission of our deep dive today is to explore this profound philosophical paradox in the text. We're going to try and discover what true spiritual masters actually call the way of non-action.
And how it can literally change how you perceive reality.
Exactly. Whether you are just feeling totally overwhelmed by modern life's endless rules and expectations, or you're just, insanely curious about Eastern philosophy, this text offers a completely alternative way to view the world. Okay, let's unpack this, because the text doesn't just start with a solution, does it?
No, not at all. It starts by shining this really bright, honestly kind of uncomfortable light on the problem itself. Because, well, to understand the cure, we first have to diagnose the disease.
Right, we have to know what we're trying to escape.
Exactly. So the text defines this trap that we are all currently stuck in. It calls it the way of action, or in the original terminology, Yue.
Yue, the way of action. So what exactly does this mean in the context of this essay? Because, action usually sounds like a positive thing, right?
Right.
We are constantly taught to be proactive, to take action, get things done.
Right. In our modern context, we heavily value action and productivity. We praise it. But the text defines the way of action very, very specifically.
How so?
Well, it occurs whenever we use our personal will to define, interpret, or impose meaning on the objective world. And this is the crucial part, we take those subjective definitions and we use them as strict, unyielding standards for our behavior.
Ah, I see. So it's that very act of trying to force a fluid, objective reality into our own subjective, rigid little boxes.
Exactly. Which brings us right back to your Lego maker analogy.
Running around the room, slapping labels on things that won't stay still.
Yes. And what's fascinating here is how the text frames human effort in this regard. It cites a quote from the Buddha to really illustrate the true nature of the reality we were trying so desperately to label.
Oh, right. The quote about conditioned phenomena.
Exactly. The Buddha said, all conditioned phenomena are like dreams, illusions, bubbles, and shadows like dew, or a flash of lightning. One should view them in this way.
Dreams, illusions, bubbles, shadows, dew, a flash of lightning. Those are incredibly evocative words.
They really are. What stands out to you about them?
Well, they all share this quality of being so fragile and completely temporary. It's like trying to grab a handful of morning mist.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
The harder you squeeze your hand shut, the less you actually hold. You open your fingers and there's just nothing there.
And the text asserts that the way of action is fleeting, exactly like that mist, or like that lightning flash. It is ever-changing.
So why do we do it? If it's impossible, why are we so obsessed with labeling?
Well, the psychological mechanism at play here is just our deep-seated need for safety. We label things because predictability makes our brains feel safe.
Oh, that makes sense. Like, if I know what a thing is, I know how to handle it.
Right. If we can define a person as good or a situation as bad, we know how to react. We don't have to actually process the nuance of the present moment. But the text argues that substituting reality with our personal definitions just creates an illusion.
Okay, but wait. I have to push back on this a little bit.
Sure, go ahead.
Because as humans, aren't we kind of supposed to define things to make sense of the world?
Mm-hmm.
We need language. We need categories literally just to survive, to build societies.
Or worse.
Like if I don't label a cliff as dangerous, I might just walk right off it, right?
Yeah.
Why is imposing meaning considered so dangerous or illusory here?
Well, the danger isn't in recognizing a physical cliff, Biological survival obviously requires basic categorization.
Right, the essay isn't telling us to walk off cliffs.
Exactly. The danger, as the text clarifies beautifully, is attaching our ultimate meaning and our core identity to temporary definitions.
Ah, okay. The identity piece.
Right. It says that chasing transient, ever-changing things with our relatively short human lives is, well, it's literally like trying to catch a dream.
Because it's going to fade away no matter what.
Exactly. You spend your entire life energy pursuing a career title or a societal status or this really rigid relationship dynamic, and those things are guaranteed to eventually change or vanish.
Which ultimately leaves you with nothing but suffering.
Exactly. The problem isn't seeing the lightning flash. The problem is trying to build a permanent house on top of it.
Building a house on a flash of lightning.
Yeah.
Wow. That really puts the exhaustion of modern life into perspective, doesn't it?
It really does.
We try so hard to build permanent identities on temporary jobs, temporary relationships. If the way of action UE just leaves us completely empty-handed, we need to look at the alternative. Where is the text trying to lead us?
It leads us to the antidote, which is actually the ultimate goal the Buddha had for us, the way of non-action or wu-wei.
Wu-wei. Okay, so how do we get there? The essay introduces a really interesting concept regarding the teachings themselves, right?
Yeah, it discusses the mechanics of why the Buddha taught what he taught, and perhaps more importantly, how he intended those teachings to be used.
Right, because the text explains that out of great compassion, the Buddha wanted to save us from this illusion, from the trap of building houses on lightning.
But he introduced a massive paradox in doing so. He actually admitted that he taught no fixed dharma.
No fixed dharma. And dharma here essentially means the ultimate truth, right? Or the formal teachings of Buddhism.
Yes, the cosmic law.
It just sounds so contradictory for a foundational spiritual figure to say, I have no fixed teaching.
It does. But the essay notes that the Buddha considered his teachings to be merely rafts.
Rafts, like for crossing a river.
Exactly. They were practical tools designed to help us cross from a state of suffering to a state of clarity. They were bridges for inner transformation. They were never, ever meant to be carried around on our backs once we actually reached the other side.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because the text drops a completely mind-bending quote to support this.
Oh, the Tathagata quote.
Yes. It says, the Dharma taught by the Tathagata, which is just a formal title for the Buddha, cannot be grasped, cannot be spoken. It is not Dharma, nor is it not Dharma.
It's quite a riddle.
And then it adds the real kicker. The moment a teaching can be grasped or spoken, it instantly devolves back into the way of action.
The underlying logic there is just profound. I mean, the moment you take a fluid truth, write it down, and say, okay, this is the absolute rule for all situations, you've printed another label.
You're back with the label maker.
Exactly. You have fallen right back into UA. You've taken a tool that was meant for liberation and literally turned it into a new set of chains.
Which honestly creates a massive philosophical knot.
How so?
Well, it seems like anytime someone opens their mouth to give advice or write a book or lead a spiritual movement, they're just handing out more labels. If a master cannot actually speak the truth without ruining it, it makes you wonder what a saint or sage is actually supposed to do for us.
That is the ultimate teaching dilemma, isn't it? How do you guide someone without accidentally building them a new page?
Right. The text answers this by completely redefining the role of a master. A true master doesn't bind the soul with new rules. They free it.
They dissolve the rules.
Yes. The genuine quality of a sage lies entirely in how effectively they help others break through inner barriers and dissolve mental shackles.
So they aren't handing us a new rule book to memorize. They are helping us realize we just don't need the old one anymore.
Exactly. And the text makes a sweeping claim based on this idea, which is actually what gives the essay its title.
Right. All saints and sages differ only in their mastery.
Yes. It states that the only difference between all the various saints and sages throughout history is simply the depth of their realization of this non-action.
Meaning they aren't teaching different fundamental truths.
No, they're just operating at different depths of understanding the exact same reality.
Okay, but practically speaking, if words are insufficient traps, if the moment you speak a truth, it crystallizes into a rigid action, these historical masters had to have a different method of communication. They did.
Hmm.
Because they couldn't just sit in total silence forever, hoping people would just figure it out on their own.
Right. So what did they do?
Well, the text shares a famous story about the Buddha at Vulture Peak that addresses this exact communication breakdown.
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah, after speaking endlessly and providing countless teachings, the Buddha realized that words would never be completely perfect. They would always be approximations, always falling short of true reality.
So what was his solution?
He turned to Chan, which is the Chinese precursor to what many people know as Zen.
Right, and the essay describes Chan as no reliance on words or letters, direct pointing to the human mind.
Direct pointing. It completely bypasses the intellect's desperate need to categorize. Instead of giving the brain another concept to chew on, it directs awareness straight to the core of human perception itself.
The essay uses a metaphor here that I thought clarified this perfectly. It says that rather than trying to describe the vivid, miraculous colors of the world to a blind person using words, it is far better to simply heal their eyes so they can see the colors directly for themselves.
That's a stunning metaphor, because describing the color red to someone who has never seen it requires the way of action.
It requires labels.
Right. It relies on words, comparisons, intellectual approximations. You might say red is warm or sharp, but, those are just more labels.
And they don't actually convey redness.
Exactly. Healing the eyes so the person experiences red directly without the need for any intermediary description. That is the way of non-action.
It totally changes the entire paradigm of what a spiritual teacher is. They aren't lecturers dispensing data, they're physicians. They're like eye doctors for the soul.
I love that. Eye doctors for the soul. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the essay doesn't limit this concept just to Eastern philosophy. It demonstrates that this is a universal thread across different traditions.
Yeah, the text brings in Jesus, pointing to the exact same mechanism of internal vision.
Right. What was the quote?
The quote from Jesus in the text is, "If your eye is clear, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness."
Notice the synthesis the author is making there. There is a direct, undeniable parallel between the Buddha healing the eyes of the blind and Jesus teaching that the clarity of the eye brings light to the entire body.
It's the exact same core message.
Yes. Both figures, according to this text, were intensely focused on the internal mechanics of perception. They were not focused on external rule following or behavioral compliance.
They wanted the individual to perceive reality as it is, totally stripped of societal labels.
Exactly.
This underlying truth of non-action forms such a remarkably consistent thread. And the text pulls on that thread to weave in other major philosophies too, specifically bringing up Lao Tzu and the Tao Te Ching.
Lao Tzu is basically practically synonymous with the concept of Wu Wei. But the author of the essay, Shuofeng, includes a highly intriguing detail here.
Yeah, he mentions having a dialogue with Lao Tzu, which leads to a revision of a really famous line from the Tao Te Ching.
Right.
The original translation people usually read as, "The sage engages in non-action and teaches without words."
Yeah.
But the text says this was actually revised to, "The Tao engages in non-action and teaches without words."
That revision might seem subtle, but it fundamentally changes the mechanism of the philosophy.
How so? Because of replacing the sage with the Tao.
Exactly. By doing that, it removes the human element of effort entirely. It stops being a behavioral technique. It's not that a wise person is sitting around exerting effort to do non-action.
That would just be Yue again.
Right. It's that the fundamental nature of the universe itself, the Tao, operates inherently through non-action.
The universe doesn't label things.
No, it doesn't label a tree as good or a storm as bad. It simply allows them to exist. The text notes that Lao Tzu said those who align with this way are subtle and profound beyond comprehension.
So, if Lao Tzu removes the human ego by putting the universe, the Tao, in charge, the essay takes us a step further inward by bringing in the sixth patriarch, Huining.
Yes, because the question remains, how does an individual actually tap into that universal flow?
Right. And Huining provides that vital internal layer. The text quotes his realization that all Dharma, all teachings and phenomena are completely inseparable from one's true nature.
And he describes this true nature in a very specific way.
He describes it as originally pure, complete, unborn, and unmoving.
Unborn and unmoving. Think about that for a second. That is the exact opposite of the transient lightning flash we discussed earlier.
It's the stable ground underneath the lightning.
Exactly. The lightning flash represents the external world of action, the constant churning of events and emotions and labels. The true nature is the internal, unmoving reality beneath all of that.
And Huining states something pretty radical about this. He says that learning teachings, studying the Dharma, is entirely useless if you don't first recognize your original mind.
That is a harsh critique of intellectual study, isn't it? Entirely useless.
It really is. It implies that all the academic study, the memorization of rules, the philosophical debates,
Yeah.
they are all just intellectual hoarding if your core perception hasn't actually shifted.
Because if you haven't realized that unmoving true nature, you are just using the teachings to print more sophisticated labels.
Oh, wow. You're using spiritual vocabulary to play the exact same game of UA.
Precisely. You're just labeling things with fancier words.
Hmm.
The text synthesizes this by explaining that a Buddha, or a true person, is simply someone who has realized this true mind. They rest in that unmoving state, just allowing the world to happen, rather than frantically chasing the illusions of the transient world.
So what does this all mean for us today? Because, I mean, the theory is beautiful, but we don't live on ancient mountaintops.
No, we don't.
We live in the modern world. We are making concrete chakas every single day. And the author actually references the teachings of a modern spiritual community called Lifechanyuan to demonstrate how this philosophy holds up under the pressure of modern daily life.
Applying ancient paradoxes to daily behavior really is the ultimate stress test for any philosophy.
It is. And the essay addresses this directly by asking some highly counterintuitive, really practical questions. This is where we hit a massive moral paradox in the text.
Yes, the question's about what to teach people.
Right. It asks, is it right to teach people to be good? And the answer the text gives is not what anyone would expect. It simply says, hard to say.
Which throws people off because most people assume the entire point of spirituality or philosophy is to make people good.
Exactly. But the text continues to challenge that assumption. It asks, is it right to teach people not to eat meat or avoid sensual desire? Again, the answer, hard to say.
So it's not giving a clear moral directive.
No. So what about the opposite? Is it right to teach them to eat meat and pursue desire? The text says, also hard to say, it cannot be said.
This raises an important question about the actual mechanics of morality and rules. Why is it hard to say if we should teach people to be good?
What do you think?
Because the moment you instruct someone to strictly follow a rule to be good, you are imposing a rigid definition on a fluid reality. You are deciding what good looks like in every single context, and you are using personal will to enforce it.
You're forcing it.
Right, and in doing so, you pull that person right back into the way of action. You pull them back into UA.
You essentially hand them the label maker, give them a sticker that says good, and tell them to start slapping it on their behavior completely regardless of the nuanced context of their actual lives.
Exactly. Therefore, the text states that Lifechanyuan neither teaches people to be good nor to be bad. Instead, it embraces the one and follows the Tao. It prioritizes cultivating that inner clarity over enforcing behavioral checklists.
Letting go of the need to control outcomes through moral categories is difficult, like really difficult.
Extremely.
But it introduces a new danger, doesn't it? If you try so incredibly hard to let go of everything, don't you eventually just become attached to the concept of letting go?
You've identified the final and most subtle trap outlined in the essay.
The ultimate loop.
Yes. The text quotes Sangdian's Celestial to address this exact pitfall. The quote is, "To cling to non-attachment is still attachment."
To cling to non-attachment is still attachment. That is heavy.
It is the ultimate psychological loop. Think about it. You recognize the exhaustion of the label maker. You throw it away, but soon you become incredibly proud of yourself for not having a label maker.
Right, you start judging all the people around you who are still labeling things.
Exactly.
You basically print a giant label that says, I have no labels, and you stick it right on your own forehead.
That's hilarious, but it's exactly what happens. And the moment you do that, you are practicing Yue again. You are using the concept of non-attachment as your new rigid standard.
So how do we break free from this infinite loop of the mind? The text offers a concluding concept as the ultimate metric, right? Formless thinking.
Formless thinking, yes. Let's dive into the mechanics of that, because the essay states that it is the clearest expression of the way of non-action.
It's the yardstick.
Right. It is the yardstick by which we can measure true understanding. The true difference among all the saints and sages is simply the level of formless thinking they have managed to attain.
Okay, so practically speaking, what does formless thinking actually look like?
Well, practically speaking, formless thinking is a cognitive mechanism where a person interacts with reality without needing to freeze it into a shape or a form beforehand.
So put that into a modern scenario. Let's imagine walking into a performance review at work, or sitting down to have a really difficult conversation with your partner.
Good examples.
If you approach it with UA the way of action, you walk in with preloaded labels. You categorize your boss as a threat, the meeting as a potential disaster, or your partner as unreasonable.
You've already written the script.
Exactly. You are reacting to your own labels before the conversation even begins.
Conversely, applying formless thinking means walking into that exact same room and simply observing what is actually happening.
Just being there.
Right. You listen to the specific words being said in that specific moment. You observe the emotions present without immediately judging them. You respond dynamically to the reality unfolding in front of you rather than reacting to the script you wrote in your head beforehand.
You engage completely, but you have no psychological residue.
Beautifully said. It is seeing the mist, feeling the moisture of it on your skin, but never frustrating yourself by trying to squeeze it into your fist.
It is experiencing the world directly, with a healed eye, without the intermediary of rigid definitions constantly running interference.
Exactly.
Wow. This has been an incredible journey through a very dense and deeply rewarding text.
It really has.
Let's do a quick recap of the narrative we've unpacked today. We started in that exhausting, chaotic room, identifying the core trap of UE the way of action. We look at how we waste our short lives trying to rigidly define a world that is as transient as a flash of lightning.
And from there, we explored the antidote, Wu Wei, the way of non-action. We analyzed the mechanics of how the greatest teachers in history, from the Buddha to Jesus to Lao Tzu to Huineng, understood that their words were never meant to be absolute truths.
They were just temporary rafts.
Yes, they were bridges for inner transformation. They weren't trying to describe the colors of the world to us. They were trying to heal our spiritual blindness so we could see the true, unmoving nature of reality for ourselves.
And we navigated the incredible paradox that even clinging to our own non-attachment is just another form of attachment, which leads us ultimately to the practical goal of formless thinking.
And living in your modern day-to-day life with absolute information overload, this is just highly relevant. You are constantly bombarded with new rules for how to live, how to work, what to eat, what constitutes good, and what constitutes bad.
The labels are everywhere.
Everywhere. The ultimate shortcut to clarity might be recognizing that these rules, at their absolute best, are just rafts. The goal is not to carry the raft on your back for the rest of your life. The goal is to cross the river and heal your own eyes.
The goal is to heal your own eyes. I love that. As we wrap up this deep dive into Sufeng's essay, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. We spent today talking about the human struggle between imposing rigid labels and finding fluid, formless thinking.
Right.
But consider the technology we use every single day. We are currently building a world completely run by artificial intelligence and algorithms. And these systems are literally built on categorization. They run entirely on data points, sorting, and absolute definitions. They are the ultimate masters of UE the way of action. So if the systems that govern our social media, our finances, and our workplaces demand rigid labels to function, does practicing the formless, unlabelable way of non-action become the ultimate act of human rebellion?
That's a profound thought.
Put down the label maker, step back from the chaos of the room, and see what you can truly see.